Yeah, I want the music pumping with the video title over it. Then you fade in the price. Also, this footage, temporary, swap it out when we get to the final video. I want a drawing tablet in there. The Cintiq 24 Touch is a really good drawing tablet. I reviewed the 16-inch version a few weeks back, and this has a lot of the same benefits. It's a very similar product. We've got a nice 2.5K display with great looking colors, Wacom's Pro Pen 3, and more importantly, a reasonable-ish price. It's not the lowest price thing out there for its size, but I think illustrators who really want that Wacom brand name, who really want a touch screen, maybe they were scared off by the price of the Pro version, they're gonna find this much more palatable. This 24-inch tablet comes in two flavors, normal and touch. This version is the touch variant. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the $1 million question? What is the difference between this and the slightly smaller Cintiq Pro 22? Drum roll, please. Keep it going, I wanna build the suspense. The price! Okay, that's pretty obvious. Give me another difference. The screen! The Pro Cintiq is rocking a 4K display with a resolution of 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels, while the non-Pro version has a 2.5K display that's 2,560 pixels by 1,440 pixels. Another difference is the refresh rate, with the Pro having 120 Hz refresh and the non-Pro having a 60 Hz refresh. These are both touchscreens. And while those are nice upgrades to have, what makes the 22-inch Cintiq Pro cost twice as much? The stand? No, it doesn't come with the stand. The button grips along the back, I mean, that's a nice touch. It's all in the professional grade color accuracy. This is a level of accuracy that most people will never need. Most illustrators will never need. But if you're working in a movie studio, an animation studio, if you're trying to maintain color accuracy across devices, this can be a huge time saver. There are other differences too. For example, the Pro comes with a fully customizable Pro Pen 3. This comes with the same pen, but without all of the extra accessories. For example, the Pro Pen version has a barrel that you could slide on and off to get a wider grip. The Pro version comes with a little weight that you could throw in the back to make it feel better in your hand. We don't get those little extras here, but if you really want them, you can pick up those extra on Wacom's website. So here is my hot take. Do you know what DCI/P3 is? Do you know what Rec 709 is? If you do, how many times in your life have you changed these or calibrated those color profiles for your work? Were changing those settings essential to the task you do as an illustrator, photographer, designer? If you answered no to those questions, then you don't need the Pro version. If you answered yes, then you might want to look into it. Yes, the 4K is going to be better on the Pro. Yes, 120 Hz is nice to have, but in my hot taking opinion, it's not worth twice the price. Let's take a look at what comes in the box. We have the tablet itself. Along the back is a stand. This is a really nice adjustable arm with a release lever. I think the lowest angle it goes down to is about 20-ish degrees. Very comfortable for drawing. Also, this is attached via like some VESA stand mount. So if you want to take this off and replace it and put it on an arm or something like that, you can totally do that. At its highest point, it's not quite 90 degrees. It gets close. This is a pretty hefty tablet. It's not hard to like move it around and actually get it at the angle you want, but this thing is heavy. It is going to be anchored to your desk. You're not going to be moving it around a whole lot. The display itself does look really nice. The colors pop. The color accuracy is good. 2.5K stretched out over 24 inches isn't bad. Once you get to this size, you can see pixels when you go that big, when you go looking for them. Whereas at 4K, it is going to be crisper at this size. I think when I was talking about like the 16-inch version, 2.5K is perfect for me. I don't need 4K at a smaller size. At this size, it's right on that boundary. I think 2.5K though is a decent compromise when they're thinking about dropping the price a little. The touchscreen isn't bad. I didn't get a lot of ghost lines while drawing. There were no palm marks left over whenever I picked up my hand. In fact, this aspect of the tablet was really good. I did notice at times that when I would go to pinch and zoom, it wouldn't work or it just would stop working. Same thing with like rotating my canvas. I eventually figured out that what was happening is that if the pen gets too close to the canvas, it just makes it harder to rotate this sort of thing. So I found that like pinching and zooming with my left hand while drawing with my right hand just seemed to kind of work out better. Now, Windows and Macs do handle the touchscreen thing a little bit differently. I find it's much smoother on Windows. It did work fairly well on the Mac though. I was able to pinch and zoom. I was able to pan around. I was able to rotate the canvas. I could do all of those things. It doesn't feel quite as organic on the Mac. It feels a little bit more mechanical, but it works and it gets the job done. You can also just toggle the touch off just by pressing one of the buttons along the side, and that brings up some of the tablet settings. I think the Pro version of the Cintiq has its own dedicated button. The old ones had the same thing. I can't remember if the new Cintiq Pros do, but I think this whole dive into the settings things worked well. In fact, I really like how they incorporated some of these extra settings here right directly on the screen. I mentioned this in my 16 Cintiq review too. Adjusting a monitor's brightness and colors are usually a horrible experience. Here, I can just toggle those on in the settings, and then I use the pen to navigate, which is really handy. Super easy to use. Just a really nice user experience touch. The screen has a matte finish on it that gives your pen some resistance when you're drawing, which I am a big fan of. The one thing you're going to notice is missing here are shortcut keys. At this size, no shortcut keys is pretty much the new norm now. XP Pen, Huion, Sense Labs, none of them have shortcut keys on their largest tablets anymore. Although one thing those devices do come with is they tend to have like a shortcut remote that comes in the box. You don't get that here. So Wacom sells one for $100. You can usually pick one up for like $40, $50. If you have an old Switch remote Joy-Con thing lying around, that's Bluetooth. You could use that for shortcuts. I've done that before. Otherwise, you could just use your keyboard like some kind of peasant. Now, if you're looking at a tablet like this, I think this is a more pro-level tablet, so it's not so much catered to beginners. So chances are, if you're watching this review, my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course might not be the best fit for you because it is designed for people who are just getting started in art and are looking to pick up those fundamentals before moving on to harder art tutorials later. But if that is you or someone you know, check out more over at bradsartschool.com. It's also worth noting that this does not have a fan in it. That's something that older Cintiqs at this size did have, and that was something that drove a lot of people nuts, understandably. But here, no fan. It doesn't make a sound. It also doesn't have any noticeable hotspots on the screen either. Now in the box, you also have the power block as well as a USB Type-C port to connect this to your computer. There's also a port along the back that allows you to connect an HDMI cable as well if you want to hook it up that way instead, but it does not come with that cable, so you're going to have to buy it separately. My computers were Thunderbolt compatible, so I didn't really need it. No problem there. It's also worth noting that this is a micro HDMI port in the back of this thing, so not just any standard HDMI cable that you have laying around is going to connect to this. Like the 16-inch version I tested, there is some simple but effective cable management here along the back. There's this sunk-in area where all the cords plug in. I like that the cords are not like just sticking out of the top or sticking out of the back. It's just a much cleaner look. And also with the way that the cords are set up, it never really got in the way of the monitor's feet, the stand's feet. This isn't a feet. What's this called? A mono foot? Let's go with that. In the package, also that slim pen. Like I said before, this is the Pro Pen 3. That is great. This is Wacom's best pen. In fact, this is probably the star of the show. And there's also this little pen stand that slides into the side of the tablet. You can put it in on either side, and there are two replacement nibs inside this thing. One of those replacement nibs is just your standard nib, and one's a nice little felt tip nib. It's a little softer. It'll wear out faster, but I think it feels good on the screen. What is the most important part of a drawing tablet? Looking cool to your friends? No, it's the drawing. The best part's the drawing part. Here we have the Wacom Pro Pen 3, even if it's the slim version of the pen and it doesn't come with the weight or some of the extra features, specs don't necessarily tell the whole story. This pen is super accurate. There is no wobble on the lines, like ever. Tilt is great. Pressure is great. Everything that you want to do with this pen is just super responsive. Oftentimes, whenever I get a new drawing tablet, I grab the pen and, it takes a few minutes to warm up and go, oh yeah, this pen acts this way. And once you're used to it, you're off to the races. This was so organic that I just picked it up right away and I just felt at home immediately. Even though I think levels of pressure are overrated, they still hand you 8,000 of them and say, go to it, kid. The end result is a pen that just feels really good. And the fact that you can now get this pen and a tablet that cost half as much as the Pro version, that's the thing you're really buying here. You can also bring your old Pro Pen 2 along for the ride. You don't have to do any fancy syncing either. You just draw with it on the tablet and the drivers see that you're using the Pro Pen 2. It adds it to your list of things. You could go in and customize it to your heart's content, so you could set up different pressure curves. This tablet can also be connected to Android tablets or Android phones and used that way. It totally works. And the fact that this tablet has a touchscreen makes this much more usable than the 16-inch version. In fact, I didn't mention this in the review for the 16 because I think drawing tablets that don't have touch are really, really clunky to use on Android phones. And overall, I think this is kind of a gimmick. I would not get a tablet like this if the only thing you want to use it on is an Android device. But if you're getting it for your computer and you want to try it out on your Android device, you know, go to town. It's a nice add-on. I'm going to echo some of the things I said in my 16 review because basically this is a very, very similar device. The biggest difference though is the size. I love what Wacom's doing here in general. This feels like a pro level product, even though pro is not in the name. It's a really good drawing tablet and it doesn't have any flaws really. Like sure, you could spend more and get higher specs, but those aren't flaws. You're basically giving up a higher res screen, you're giving up that refresh rate, you're giving up those color options that most people don't need in the first place, and in doing so, you're paying half the price of the Cintiq Pro. Getting that Wacom Pro Pen 3, which might be the best stylus out there right now at a fraction of the cost, is going to appeal to a lot of people who really want that Wacom brand name. This is still more expensive than the competitors though. The Huion 24-inch with touch is $200 less than this. It is 4K though. But since we're looking at 24-inch touch displays, this is still in the neighborhood. It makes sense to me that you would pay a little bit more for a Wacom product. But in recent years, that price to quality range has just gotten out of whack with the price getting way too high. I mean, that Huion product can get you like 90% of the way there, but it was like half the price, or sometimes like a third of the price. This feels like a real return to form for Wacom, and it makes it so much easier to recommend these products to people again, and I love that. If you want to see how I rank all of those products next to each other, I do have a page on my website, bradsartschool.com, where I do rank those, link to all those reviews and all those resources for you. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments.